Okay, without further ado, let us get to why you're here. So our goal today is to help you better understand the Impact Grant Program, the timeline, what it's about, what the criteria are, and help you decide whether it makes sense for you to apply and arm you with as much data as possible to talk with your internal team to decide whether to move forward. So in doing that, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the foundation overall so you have some context. It does seem like someone might not be on mute, so if you can go ahead and make sure your phones are muted, that would be great. So we'll talk about the foundation. I'll explain a little bit about what we do and how we came to be, and then we'll go deeper into the Impact Grant overview and the program components. I will give you a few of our examples of our grantees who are now live with the system and their grant to really paint a picture of how it works for very different organizations that I think hopefully most of you on the phone will be able to relate to some components or others of these examples. And then we'll talk really explicitly of what we have found that makes a strong candidate for this program. I will then pass the baton to my colleague Heather Huber, who will take us on a short demo of the learning management system for those of you that might not have hands-on experience with what a system like that looks like. I will also let you know that we will be following up afterwards with information about a deeper dive demo that you're also welcome to participate in, and we'll provide more information about that. And then we'll close just with timelines and next steps. Okay. So for those of you that are not familiar with the foundation, I wanted to just provide a little bit of background. So the Cornerstone OnDemand Foundation is the corporate foundation of Cornerstone, the company, which is a leading talent management software as a service provider. Cornerstone, the foundation, Cornerstone OnDemand Foundation, we are a independent 501c3, but we're not a typical grant-making institution in that we don't give money. We donate our software and services in kind. We were created in 1999 by Cornerstone CEO and founder, Adam Miller, with the goal of harnessing Cornerstone's technology and expertise to support the nonprofit sector. And to that end, the foundation leverages technology, programs, and services to strengthen the capacity of nonprofits around the world. We do this through our technology grants, Impact Grants being the one we're here to talk about today. And I'm going to tell you about just a high level on some of the other programs because it's quite possible that you walk away from this session thinking that Impact Grant program is not for you at this point, but it could be that one of these other programs do sound interesting as well. So we also do have technology donations or software donations to support the internal capacity and HR focus of an organization. We have a pro bono consulting core where we match experts in the HR field to help nonprofits on their needs. And then we have several open online learning initiatives, one that's worth calling out in particular, which is nonprofitready.org, which is a site full of free resources for nonprofit professionals, and that is open and available for anyone to log into at any point. So worth jotting down that URL just to check out and see what kind of resources are there and if they can help support you and your staff. So let's dive now into the Impact Grant program, since that's really what we're here to talk about. So the other programs that I spoke about on the slide before really all are built around building and strengthening the internal organizational capacity of nonprofits. Whereas we created the Impact Grant program really to help organizations expand the reach and the impact of the programs and the services that they provide out in the community. So less of an internal focus on staff and employees, more of an external focus on those that you are training out in your larger ecosystem, whether it's partners, volunteers, beneficiaries. So the nuts and bolts of the program, is that we select 3 to 4 grantees per year who will receive a donation of up to $1 million value of Cornerstone software and services over a 2-year time frame, 2.5 years essentially, and we'll break that out in a little bit. Grantees really must be able to leverage the Cornerstone's learning technology for significant community impact and also demonstrate the necessary support and commitment from a financial, technological, and resource perspective to ensure future success. And what was worth mentioning here is that while this is an incredible cost savings and value and opportunity, there really is no such thing as a free lunch, which we all know. And even with a significant software donation of this sort, it really does take time and resources and commitment on the side of the organization to commit to an endeavor like this. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that really looks like. But my goal through all these slides is to, again, arm you with that information and perhaps scare some people away, to really look internally and say, do we have the commitment and the capacity to take something on like this at this point? So again, hopefully I'll provide you with some of those questions and the data to really help you figure that out. And our hope is that many of you say yes, but with your eyes wide open. So what is included in this grant? So from 2015 to 2017, there is no software and services costs at all, and that includes unlimited usage of all the components of the learning management system. So to mention a few things, because I do get a lot of questions on this, this really is all of the functionality included in the Cornerstone Learning Management System, and then some, which includes social and informal learning. It enables you to leverage the mobile delivery, which a lot of people ask for. Languages, if there are language components and translations, we can include those as well. And also worth mentioning is that the software is SaaS, software as a service. It's in the cloud, so there was no installing on your end. Many of you might be familiar with SaaS products. If not, it's something just worth knowing about, meaning that it is all up in the cloud. You don't have any hardware on your end. Everyone is on the same code base. So in addition to the software, we also include the implementation of the software and the implementation team and the technical integrations to get the system stood up and configured, help configure it according to your needs. We also take a very holistic approach to this, knowing that software alone is not going to make you successful, and that in launching and expanding and scaling programs, such as the ones you are, there really are a lot of pieces that need to be considered. So to that end, we provide additional consulting services as the needs arise. Some of the most common ones with our existing grantees have been learning design expertise and helping you, perhaps think of the best way to deliver a blended training program. Graphic design support to help make sure that your portal is branded similar to your website, the user design is clean, marketing and social strategy support for when you're launching, and then outsourced administration too to help support your administrators at that critical point that we know is that transition from implementation to going live. So this list continues to grow. We really try to be as responsive as possible to the grantees that we're working with and try to fill as many gaps as we can or help connect you to people in our ecosystem that can help fill those gaps. So equally important as to what is included is to also understand what's not included. And the largest category really is content development. So the grantee is responsible for the content creation. And when we say content, it can be a range of things. It could be self-paced e-learning courses, you could have videos, you could have materials and documents and PowerPoints, whatever those training components are. The system is agnostic. The system doesn't care what they are, but we do expect you to bring those to the table. I included just a sample cost of working with an e-learning vendor, which is not Cornerstone, outside vendors, of an hour of more traditional e-learning, just so you have that in your head if it's unfamiliar. And as we do operate in the learning space, we have recommendations and preferred partners that we can recommend through a design and development process, but that really goes on in parallel to getting the system up and running. So something I like to talk about here too, because I know it is, it's on everyone's mind, and there was a wide range of readiness, I'd say, that people come to this point at in terms of where should your content be. So the easiest way to take and leverage a grant is if you already have content that is optimized and ready to be deployed online, whether that's e-learning, the materials, videos, you know, a format that can be loaded into an LMS and pushed out. That makes life the easiest for sure. And is also probably the rarest person on the phone that has that. More common is that groups have a really established offline training content and have been thinking about already what it's going to take and what it's going to look like to move that online. We call that your content strategy or your learning strategy. So at a minimum, we are looking for groups at this stage that do have a content strategy, have solid existing content that they're already using, and have been thinking about what that is going to look like and what it's going to take to move it online. It doesn't have to be done, but ideal readiness here is that it's not the first time that you've been thinking about that. And for those of you that it is, and know that you are far from being able to have that content component ready to move online or to turn into a blended scenario, that's somewhere then that we might say, well, let's look out to a future year of an impact grant, and how can we work together this year to get you more ready so that by next year you say, yes, I'm in that sweet spot now. I know what we're going to need to do to move this online, and let's take advantage of perhaps a future cohort or a future year of that grant. Okay. So in terms of the timeline, I keep mentioning 2 years, and it's a sort of a 2 years-ish, but here's really what it looks like. We're here now in the application process, which really entails Q1, Q2. We move into selection of our finalists, selecting the final grantees, and then contracting, getting all the operational components in place, getting everyone ready, all of our grantees then, to implement throughout Q3 and Q4. Now, a typical implementation timeframe usually spans between 10 and 16 weeks. So you're not implementing that entire time, but we look at the cohort of the 3 or 4 grantees that we are selecting, and by the beginning of year 1, then, which is 2016, we hope to have all of the grantees stood up in the system and live, which I put in quotes, which sometimes could mean live to a broad audience, sometimes is to a pilot group. And then 2016, 2017 are really those 2 years of no-cost software, where our goal is to make sure that you are as comfortable and confident in the system as possible, and also then doing all the demand generation and marketing, the exposure work and the awareness building on the program to bring as many people into the system as possible, really maximizing the value then of those software costs, or no software costs. All these years then is also where we're layering in those additional consulting services as the needs arise. So then here's 3 to 5, which is everyone's question, and we talk about maybe sometimes starting this discussion on this slide because we know that that really is forefront in everyone's mind. What happens after the grant? So years 3 to 5, and we say that we do this 3-year contracts in Cornerstone, so that's why it's 3 to 5, which would be 2018 to 2020. We move to a highly discounted model. So some things we know that shape how we look at this year's 3 to 5. We know that giving away things for free forever does not result in the prioritization that we hope to have in terms of the partnership that we're looking for. So that is a large reason why this isn't just a, no software cost at any time in the future. We've learned this vastly from our experience. We also know that winning an impact grant does make you more fundable, and we've seen that with our grantees who are now able to go to funders saying, we've got this world-class technology underneath us, and it becomes easier to raise money for the program overall. So with those tenets underneath us, those years, 3 to 5, and ideally beyond, too, we have established a $30,000 a year flat rate, which is roughly 10% of a retail value for about 10,000 users. We know that some organizations are going to be looking to reach hundreds of thousands of users. Others may cap out in the tens of thousands or even the thousands. But to give everyone a benchmark and something to target for with 3 years in advance, we've set this as a flat rate, as something to plan for. Now, for organizations considering charging for training and using the e-commerce functionality, there are some additional fees that may play in, and we can discuss those with you at a later point should you become a finalist. But we also know that it tends to be less common sometimes for those e-commerce functionality to be used. So those Q2, Q3 periods, so the remainder of this year that we said focuses on the implementation process. What does that look like? So we ask that the implementation team on your end is assembled and ready by about the July timeframe. Now, we know that that team can continue to shift around, and it often does, but being able to stick to that time frame, that 2.5-year time frame, and being live in 2016 really does mean that we need to be ready to go in that July-August time frame. So the members of that team, that implementation team, we ask for an executive sponsor, a project manager, and a lead administrator, someone who's really going to be the one that owns the hands-on work in the system. And then we do ask that the system doesn't require IT to stand up, but if there are any integrations or any technical programs or projects, it does require the involvement, at least, of IT. So some implementation teams, almost all of these roles are one person. In other implementation teams, this could be 6 different people. So the shape of the team changes, but it's these functions that we do need to know are all being addressed. And as a very rough guideline, the project manager and the lead administrator, we look to be about 50 to 70% allocated during the implementation timeframe. So over that period of 12 to 16 weeks, again, give or take a few on either end, team can expect a very structured process that your implementation consultant will take you through, going through design, discovery process, design, configuration, and testing. Something to mention about the system, which Heather will as well, is that we do not customize. Cornerstone isn't a system that gets customized specifically to you, but it is a configuration process whereby you choose the switches, if you will, that you want to turn on and off to make the system look and function the way that you want it to. So this configuration process really is what the implementation is about. You will have several weekly team meetings, both with your implementation consultant and likely just your internal teams. We have extensive offerings of online administrator training. Around 14 to 18 hours for the LMS would be expected of those who are going to be owning the system. And our goal is really to have you take ownership of the system as early as possible, because that then, once you feel that the system is your own and you are knowledgeable and capable of making the decisions you need, we then continue to provide you lifetime support. But our goal is to not have you look to us to make the decisions. The system is infinitely configurable, and your administrators will have all the tools at your hands to help manage the system and own it from an ongoing perspective. So that does entail the hands-on work in the system during that implementation process and beyond. really the bottom line being that having skilled resources and the proper allocation of their time, so people who have the time to get as skilled as possible, and then can maintain that level of expertise is really key to a successful implementation and go live. Okay, so those really are the components of the grant, and I think those should come to life now with two of these examples that I will give you of two of our grantees who are very different organizations, and I think really cover the range of what different people might identify with, and both are very successful right now with the programs that they're running. So the first organization I'll talk about is the Ounce of Prevention, who is actually based in Chicago here with me. You'll see their operating budget and their size in terms of their full-time employees. Their mission is to provide all children with quality early childhood experiences in the first 5 years of their life. So before they received their impact grant, they were running several early education-focused programs, and they'd spent several years developing a really robust strategic plan to scale all those programs, but selected their home visiting program to be first, home visitors being professionals who work with young at-risk mothers during ages 0 to 5 of the birth of their children. They developed a very well-respected training facility for these home visitors in Illinois, and we're training about 95% of the local home visiting market, but knew there was no similar offering available for home visitors elsewhere on a national level. So once they were selected for the impact grant, spent their time getting the system up and running, did a very extensive pilot program. They now offer a bundled curriculum that consists of self-paced e-learning webinars, instructor-led training, communities where people can talk with each other, they can talk with their instructors. They can offer payment in a variety of ways, and those of you that work with state agencies know that can get complicated. So there's a lot of different permutations for how they do that. They are dramatically expanding the reach of their programs now and making this available to home visitors nationwide, while still maintaining the high-touch nature of their training. And I know this is something that a lot of people come with concerns as. Their training was very personal, it was very high-touch, and they doubted, many people in the organization doubted that they could maintain that level while moving online, which they knew was also necessary to scale. So they worked really hard on their instructional design and consulted and worked with a lot of people to figure out how to maintain that level of personal touch while still moving the program online, and are getting very strong and positive reviews from their participants in the training now. They're also now using this as a model to scale their other programs nationally, which they're in process of doing. So their 2-year targets at the end of their impact grant program, their goal is to reach 2,500 home visitors. And their 5-year target is to reach 6,000, which is about 20% of the overall market that they're looking to reach. And to show a little bit of what that looks like, they've developed a really lovely marketing site on their own website promoting the program, which then links into the LMS. So you are now looking at the Cornerstone portal, where users can browse the catalog before logging in, see what's available. Once they find something that they want to take, they're able to register for it, pay for it if they need to, send an invoice if they need to, and then return it at any point to follow along with their curriculum. Theirs is an 8-week program. It's not a one-shot deal. So they expect people to be in the system and actively managing their courseware, actively holding discussions on it. It's a very in-depth program that they're running. So now, as a counterpoint, I will talk to you about Darkness to Light, which is an organization aiming to end child sexual abuse. They're based in Charleston, and they are quite small. They have 12 full-time employees. I think they might be up to 13 or 14 now because they've had such success with their programs. Prior to us meeting, they had developed training that was proven to be effective at changing child protective behaviors. It was primarily instructor-led, train-the-trainer model. They had people all over the country doing, hosting seminars and sessions in lunchrooms and training rooms across America, and had very solid content to do that. They had also developed a very basic e-learning course, knowing that they were not soon going to be able to meet their demand because they had this rapidly expanding partner base, which they really couldn't fulfill with their existing trainer network. So they had a basic e-learning course. They were using an LMS that was expensive and buggy, and it couldn't support the growing demand they had for this course. So when they came to us, they already were using e-learning, but unsatisfactorily. And they knew that things had to change both from the content that they were using and from the stability and robustness of the platform that they had. So now they've launched a brand new online child sexual abuse prevention and response training program. They worked with an e-learning vendor that we referred them to really improve the quality of that e-learning course that they had. It's extensively video-based and activity-based, so they have a really high-quality course now that they're able to offer at no cost or a large discount through 2015 because of this grant. So these 2 years for them have really been about just expanding through their partner base and getting this course out to as many people as possible while they can. They manage registrations, they do credit card processing, extensive reporting through their LMS, and very important to them is that they can allow for group administrators and local administrators to manage their own systems or students. For those of you who work through partners and networks, you know that there is often that local level of reporting and administration that's necessary and in fact very helpful to you to be able to empower local administrators to do. So where Darkness to Light is working with YMCAs across the country to train their people, the local YMCA staff get access and privileges then to just their audience and can report, can load users, can assign training, can do all the things they need to their specific group. So that's a really important model for how they are able to administer the system. So in 2 years of being on the system, they're targeting 200,000 professionals trained, which they are well on their way to. And their 5-year goal is really having 1 million trained. So you'll see by those 2 examples how different the size of those organizations are, but how different their potential reach is as well. There is not a particular size or budget size or employee size of an organization to be able to be successful with an impact grant. What we've found is that the smaller organizations like Darkness to Light tend to look to an impact grant to support really the backbone of what they do as an organization, like Darkness to Light is, whereas an OUNCE, which is a larger organization, has many different programs running, will tend to look to an impact grant to support one of their programs and perhaps have that be a lead to scaling up other programs, or it really is just a priority that has been determined by the organizations to scale that program. So there is not one right answer. There are many components, but there are similarities across the board of what makes these 2 groups successful, being the priority of the program that they're taking on, really their readiness in terms of the content strategy and the resources they had at the table, and their plan for growth. So in a few slides, we'll talk a little bit more about those components. To take a look, though, at Darkness to Light, you'll see some of these slides reappear with Heather. They, too, you start on their website. They link people to the online training which gives them a user sign-up page where they can either create a new account or log in if they have an existing account. Now, for those partner groups, they're able to get unique registration pages to them, too, so that you can be registering in different ways. It takes them into the LMS, which you're in now, where they can take the training, they can look for their certificates, launches directly the online course and tracks and sends back feedback to the LMS on if the person's completed the course, if there are any tests in it, what their scores are. And then for them, important too, is to make it a full loop and launch those users back into their website and to try to turn those people into supporters of the movement too, whether that's through donating or taking any further action. Okay, so with those examples in mind, I'll be as specific as I can in terms of what we've learned in terms of for what makes a strong impact grant candidate based on the experience we've had so far. So we'll talk about it from an organizational, an initiative, and a team focus. So for, the organization, we're looking for groups that have a clearly articulated vision or plan for the expansion of this program. You haven't done it yet, you haven't expanded, but you know what it looks like. It's been part of your strategic goals. Everyone is behind it as an organization. You've demonstrated the capacity to implement and manage technology. Now, you don't have to be a technology company by any means, but we do like to see that you have experience successfully implementing tools in the past, and that you can demonstrate executive support for the program, and that person or persons really do understand the financial commitment in years 3 to 5 and the resource commitment leading up to that. We need to know that there's someone there to clear roadblocks if necessary and to prioritize those resources to make sure that that implementation team is cleared to have the time to take the training, to own the system, and to do what they need to do, you know, on top of what we know are all the other competing priorities in your job. But that's why we really do look for that executive support and buy-in. From an initiative or program perspective, we're looking for groups who can demonstrate evidence and research that shows positive outcomes for the existing program. So for the most part, our impact grantees aren't brand new programs, brand new ideas, but it's been something that's been piloted, perhaps in an offline format, or is being used in a regional or state level and is now looking to scale more broadly or internationally. But we're looking for some proof points that this is a program that is worth growing. We are looking for you to know that you need technology to scale, that it's a need to have, not a nice to have. And some of this is a timing point, it's a timing issue as well. Sometimes really early on in scaling programs, technology is more than you need, or an LMS might be more than you need, and you might just need to start with a Dropbox account and, you know, or a SharePoint, and gain your proof points, know that there's an audience, that there's demand for what you're developing. But for those that know that they've hit a breaking point and you can't continue doing business in the same way, and have been looking for the right technology, that's sort of the right place for where you are now. And perhaps you're looking at a variety of technologies and don't know that it's an LMS. This process will hopefully help you figure out if this is the right tool for what you need. In terms of that content readiness and content strategy that I mentioned before, you should have some existing content and or a content strategy for developing that content. So in this time frame, this 2015 time frame, our expectation is that you are either finalizing the content you're working either with a vendor or internally to morph that content into an effective blended format. And the more that you have done already, again, the easier it will be for you Otherwise, you will be doing that process in parallel. You'll be implementing the system and you'll be developing all your content. So we know it's a fluid process, but that internal assessment on where you actually are with the content is really important. And we're looking for you to have a go-to-market plan for identifying and reaching your target audiences. So not just having the best content in the world, but how are you going to get people to know about it? And to that end, having existing networks or existing demand really helps with that. So these are all questions that you'll see as part of the application. Hopefully this provided a little background of why those things are important. From the team perspective, too, we decided to identify project team with assigned and allocated resources by the July timeframe, July, early August, and that it is cross-functional, and that you have the people that are really working on the systems, but you do have embedded in your team, maybe not from a weekly basis, but you've got all the right hooks into your marketing teams, your IT teams, HR, and any of the business leaders or the decision makers that you need, so that this is not operating in a vacuum. Okay, so we've talked about the Cornerstone Foundation. We've talked about the impact grant, the components of the grant, the examples of the ounce and darkness to light, and then broken down these steps of what really makes a good candidate. So I'm now going to turn the controls to Heather, who will take you on a high-level tour through the learning management system. Again, afterwards, I'll give you some information if you want to dig deeper, and hopefully help you envision what something like this could look like. So when she's done, I have about a 5-minute wrap-up, so hopefully everyone can stay on for that. And if you do have any extra time, again, I'll be going through those questions. And for any that aren't answered, we'll follow up with afterwards. Okay, Heather, all yours.
All right. I'm actually going to take a step back here, and this is a live screen of what Amy showed just a few moments ago. One of the ways that you can bring users into your learning management side of your public site certainly could just be a link from your main page to say, hey, come here and look at our catalog. The fact of having someone log in before they see your resources is not necessarily how you would need to do it. You certainly can show your catalog to people that have yet to log in or identify themselves. Just realize that this business of having a login and having a named user allows people to keep track of what they've trained with you, and of course also in terms of purchasing, we would need to know who they are. So as Amy described, this is what we refer to, by the way, as a self-registration screen. It's really similar to any sort of consumer-like online site that you would see today, Amazon.com or Facebook. Basic things here where you identify yourself. Perhaps you would instantaneously get a password, or some organizations want to review the people first who've entered themselves and then get an email later with their access. Regardless whether you show your catalog up front before you have someone log in, or force the login so you know who's looking beforehand, those are workflow choices you get to have. Once the user's in the learning management system screen itself, can look a variety of ways. Ultimately, this front-end screen, which we refer to as the welcome screen for a user, especially once we know who they are, is really truly a blank slate for your organization to design however you'd like. It certainly can mimic your online public space today. There's a place here where you can, quite frankly, insert HTML code that you already have on your online space today, and just mimic that look and feel. So when users click on training resources and they proverbially come to this welcome page, they may not even realize that they've left your public site. The URL will change, but they may not recognize that. Now, beyond that, this is just a mock-up page for today's demo purposes only. Like I said, yours could look really different. Amy showed you a few examples of darkness to light, for instance, and oh gosh, Amy, the other one escapes me that you just showed.
Ounce.
Yes, thank you. I knew as soon as you said ounce that was going to come back. I just had a Total brain block. So again, this is just a sample portal here today, so we can show you some live things. In this design mock-up, I made the choice here to give 3 quick links to provide people different ways of seeing what's in your catalog. That term catalog, as Amy described also, could mean any type of file, link to somewhere else, any type of modality that you consider to be learning or training related. Now, we certainly categorize things in a certain way, and as you watch me hover my mouse, you'll see some of pretty familiar Cornerstone terms. At the end of the day, you could refer to these categories differently, but just realize behind the scenes, this just dictates how and where you put different file types inside the Cornerstone cloud. So when a user comes here and looks at your catalog, this is one way that they could see what you have to offer. Now, this is an example of having over 1,300 results. I'm probably not going to really see what's most important, or certainly not the most recent thing that you've added. So there's different ways that you can tag training, or naturally, like newest and popular, we automatically track for you, that again allows users to easily get a sense of what you have to offer. Now you're starting to see these different icons. Again, that just represents different learning modalities. For instance, you can schedule live events in our system. Here's an example of a course called Essentials of Leadership. A couple of highlights here: when you put things in the Cornerstone cloud, of course you have the proverbial title and description, but you can even advertise these events with little YouTube clips. You can allow past participants to rate their experience in that. And you'll notice here with Ella, her name is linked, and that's going to get us into the social collaboration space. So you truly are building stronger ties to the communities that you serve through this tool. Now we get into the more traditional detail side of the learning that you're offering. Realize, again, one of the great things about the Cornerstone system is it's highly configurable, and I know Amy mentioned that as well. When it comes to price, that's a choice. If you want to sell your resources, you certainly can turn that off. You can tag training by things that they're related to. You can create your own subjects, and realize that you can create any field you'd like that helps to describe what this training is. And notice how some of those can even be links elsewhere. Now we have a whole slew of features and functions around live training itself, which we certainly don't have time to dive into today, but in terms of managing a calendar, managing seats, rosters, sign-in sheets, etc., that all comes with this solution. Now when a user finds something that they're interested in, they simply hit request. Now you'll notice this example today has a price attached to it, so when I hit request, one of 2 things may happen. One may be because you already know who I am, I'm directly brought to my transcript where it's placed here in the list of other things. 2, that may be the place where now you ask me to register, which was an example of a screen here. Or 3, it may take me to this shopping cart scenario. Now again, this whole world of pricing and using our system as a transactional partner and bringing in funds this way is truly just an option of this. Certainly most of what we're talking about today does not reside around the management of a shopping cart, much less transactional processes. But realize that's an option there if you want to add that piece and add that experience to your outside constituents. Now what I'm on right now is referred to as the transcript screen. In your portals that you create for your outside world, you could refer to this screen however you want. Just realize conceptually, as Amy pointed out, these are things that I, as Molly, have previously selected. Different activities can happen around your learning, such as once I look at your document or once I look at this site that you tagged, now you want me to sign that I've looked at it. Maybe you want me to take an evaluation. How did I feel about it? Would I take this again? There's certainly other options like selecting the time and place, launching, etc. In each one of these examples, there's a drop-down menu for training details, and I know Amy had a screenshot of this as well. Then when I come to the completed side, here's an example evaluation I'll show in a moment, but also there's always this ongoing history for that user to see when they got it, how they got it, and more importantly, in this world, print a certificate. So if some of the things that you're offering has some level of validity to it in whatever space that you're offering training in, realize you get to design this area as much as you get to design the front-end space for what users see when they first enter your LMS. These certificates can be very specific to the training title or very specific to who Molly is when she registers herself. So maybe because she registered from the state of Louisiana, she might have different features on her certificate than someone who registered from Illinois. Those are just some highlights. Realize throughout the process here, attachments can be uploaded as well to any kind of learning object. So not only do I get an online course, but maybe on the training details page, I also have the ability to see a syllabus or additional content to read while I watch the course. If you're actually in the online course world, it's truly just a click of the button and that online course runs just as you developed it or just as you have purchased it from some other vendor. This one is loading here, and I can certainly stop it at any time, close the window, and I'm back to the Cornerstone LMS. Now you'll notice here the screen is refreshing because it's noting the fact that I, Molly, clicked on it today at 1:50 Central Time, and we're tracking all of that for your reporting use as well. Another piece here is from the social side. So you'll see on my welcome page I'm highlighting one particular community, but the reality is that you could have several online areas for people to collaborate. Here is just a sampling of a couple. Whether you automatically push people into these communities or once they're here, they're allowed to join ones on their own accord. There's certainly email triggers that will fire to let people know when updates have been pushed. Realize that you could have various subtopics within a community, and within each area or topic, there can be conversations, attachments being shared. This is a posting titled Situation Leadership Video. And once I'm in it, I can see that Claire has actually shared something online that she wants the rest of the community to see. There's lots of bells and whistles here as well in terms of who can comment, who can reply. If I reply, can I also reply with, here's my attachment? This can very easily grow quite quickly when it's left open for users to share and truly build relationships with each other in your learning space. We also want to, here at the brief few moments that we have left, give you a sense administratively. I'm just flipping browser pages here. This is what the main page of configuring our LMS is. Now today I'm logged in as a master admin. Of course, we're doing many things in the talent management space beyond learning. So you're seeing other tools here, but for today's purposes, I'm just going to give you a sense of training. We have an area called catalog management. For instance, this is where you would upload a document or create a link to that document from somewhere else. And it's as simple as hitting a plus sign, giving your document or resource a title, and then certainly uploading the material here or copying and pasting the link. Now this link, like Amy said earlier, could be a SharePoint site, some internal directory, or you're sending them to a place on YouTube. I'll just pull those things as examples. There are additional fields here, again, that you can create in our system that helps you tag and helps you describe what this resource is. But as Amy says, it doesn't always have to be a very fancy, detailed online live training. It could be as simple as a document that you're giving people access to and also tracking their use of it. Last thing here is from a reporting standpoint. I'm going to show you two examples here for training reports, probably the most popular ones that our clients use today, because part of this is building it and expecting people to come and use it, but it's also this ability to track use and to see what's most popular, to see what people are benefiting from. I'm going to run this particular report here on a class called Ethics, Doing the Right Thing. And just by picking a title and hitting search, I can quickly get a sense across all users, whether that's 200 users or 200,000 users, which we have clients today that are using our LMS engine with that many number of people. You can quickly get a sense of real time how many people are in that class, and more importantly, where are they at with it. There are certainly other options here I could have chosen, but that's how simple it can be in running a report. You'll notice this one can be produced as a printable version, or every single other report that's on the screen here is exportable to Excel. So it should be your data that you can manipulate however you'd like. One last example I'll show you here, maybe I clicked on that inappropriately, are learning evaluations. So if you allowed a survey to be taken on the course, you can certainly see the results of how people felt about the course. This is a little different than showing publicly people's reviews of it, but more so internally, so you can decide maybe this is something I want to show again or maybe not. Let's see what other selections I need to make here. And for quickness here, I'm just showing printable version, but certainly everything could also be pushed to Excel. As I turn this back over to Amy or anyone else here, quick questions?
I will take that. I'm not going to open it up to everyone, although there are great questions coming through, and I have tried to answer those where I can, and again, we will follow up with any answers that aren't there. But no, I think, thank you, Heather. You did a great job of covering the parts, the higher components. Again, we'll get a chance to get a deeper look, and if you have in-depth technical questions, or not technical, but at least system configurations, I would encourage you to attend that, because that will be more of an open forum for us to talk about. So thank you, Heather, and hopefully that was valuable to everyone. It was great. So now to wrap up in the last 5 minutes, let's talk about the next steps. After attending this session, you'll want to discuss internally, take away what you learned, and discuss internally whether this program is a fit. You can share the video that will send you a YouTube link for anyone else to see, and just, take away your analysis and figure out if you'd like to continue moving forward. If not, absolutely as valuable to know that as well. And if that's the case, can we assist you in other ways? Can we perhaps make a match with a consultant? Do you have internal HR needs that we can help support either from the software or services perspective? Is it just, that nonprofit ready site that will offer you some great courses and training to offer to your volunteers or your board? But if yes, and you do want to continue, then there are 2 additional sessions that we're going to be offering. I apologize that this first one is next week, and we don't have a ton of time in advance to give you. These both also will be recorded as well and made available. But next Tuesday, we are having a grantee chat with 3 of our grantees. There will be a representative from Darkness to Light and the Ounce, which you learned about, and then also one from Boys and Girls Club, which is a very different size organization as well and presents a very different perspective. So we'll have that, and then we're going to have that deeper dive LMS demo on Tuesday the 3rd. In the email that I send as a follow-up, I will send all the details for registration. And then the application will be due online by March 20th. If you go to the website, which you probably have all been to register for this training or this webinar, you will be directed to a link to complete the application online, and then you can also download a Word version of it, knowing that this often has to pass a bunch of people's hands before you actually submit the final. So if you have any problems accessing either of those, please let me know. And if you have any feedback too as you're completing it, we are constantly trying to evolve and make it as user-friendly as possible. So I'm very open to the experience of submitting that online as well. After we receive all the applications, we are going to down select to probably about 8 to 10 finalists who will be selected in April, and we will follow up with all of you to have an additional phone call or discovery sessions. We will ask for your audited financials, and we will ask for you to put together a very short little video clip sort of telling us more about you. And again, that and what you'll see as part of the application, we ask for some PowerPoint slides. We're not judging you on any of your performance skills or your presentation skills, but we find it very valuable to have different means of communication as you tell us your story. So we'll work over that month to dig a little bit deeper and get to know each other better with the finalists. And then we will select our final 4 is our target in May. And then launch into that timeline slide, if you recall earlier, where we would then go into contracting and begin the implementation setup process. So with a minute to spare, that brings us to the end of this session. Hope you found it valuable. And remember, keep an eye out for a follow-up email that will come probably tonight, no later than tomorrow morning, with all of the details that we mentioned. And thank you for your questions. I will get back to you on those too if I haven't already. Appreciate your time and look forward to continuing the conversation of how the Cornerstone Foundation might be able to help support you and the respective organizations and programs. Have a great day.